you need to change out some light bulbs, guys. I have a feeling that your load bank control is probably not automatic.
All it's going to do is just give us some price raise on this. Distribution overview. You can't be settings. Settings. Off. On. We're just load shedding.
Alright, so you said you have enough generator power here to take on the whole building, right? So somebody had turned on your load shed. If you don't want it right now, I could turn it off.
You don't need those.
Okay, turning that off.
Oh, it's way too easy to do that.
For one thing, I don't think anything's been prioritized for load shed.
Yeah, because your settings in here are generic settings right now. The settings for your load shed, these are basic.
I had a feeling, same with the transfer switches. Red Top, before they left, I literally think they forgot that they needed to program all this for our needs.
Because all this stuff we normally program when we do our startup. And if you guys don't need it, because the other thing that's not turned on right now either is gen demand. Do you know what gen demand is? I'll explain it when we do the training. So let me go ahead.
Via tests.
Let me go ahead and so now that I got everybody here, I'll go ahead and explain one thing so that you understand gen demand, so you can maybe ask some questions if you need it. So this is another feature because you do not have enough load for the site for one generator or whatever, and you have to offset that with load bank. Gen demand is a function that you have that helps with that. So when you have both gens come up, right, you close them both to the bus, and then the switchgear senses how much load you have on the bus, and also senses how much available load you have on the bus. Once it sees that you're not at the right percentage, it says, okay, I don't need 2 gens to run. I'm going to shut one down. And it shuts it down after so many, I'll look in the settings, but normally it's about a 5-minute sensing period. And it senses for 5 minutes and says, okay, I'm going to shut. And you can prioritize which one is priority 1 or which one's priority 2. So say for instance, one time Gen 2 is priority 1, so it's going to shut down Gen 1. Gen 1 goes into a standby scenario and just sits there. If ever you guys do have site load that exceeds the percentage that it needs to add a generator, which it always is a percentage. It's not going to be at 100% of the gen load. It'll be at 70, or well, we can look, but normally it's about 70 or 80% of what the rated KW on the bus is. So if you only have one gen on the bus, you only have 1 meg on the bus at that time. So whatever the percentage is of the rated KW on the bus. So then it senses and sees, okay, my site load is exceeding what I need for that rated percentage. I'm going to go ahead and start another generator, and it will start that second gen back up and run. It'll close it to the bus and run it both gens on the bus at that time.
Now, what happens if one gen set goes down?
The other one will immediately start back up. So you'll have
10 seconds?
Another 10-second delay. It'll have a 10-second out, like you would in a regular outage, unless you have open transition or closed transition here.
Take a guess.
Open. It's PG&E.
The only thing I didn't get.
It's PG&E.
You see, we got all closed. But
really?
Parnassus, yeah, 14 of them.
PG&E is hard to get closed transition. So even with open transition, you have about a 10-second delay in outage. So even with the same scenario, if that one gen fails, the other one's going to immediately start up. You still only have about a 10-second outage at most.
Okay.
So that's nice.
I'll need to ask about that.
Yeah, I would ask.
That be if that's how they
if they want to use it, because then that way you don't necessarily always have to use the load bank to offset that, what is your total rated side load?
No one knows yet. It's an issue I'm having with Red Top, Mr. Chuck. No one knows. So we just rolled all transfer switches and we had literally 180 amps and it was nothing. We barely got 20% on one generator.
Okay.
Of all of them. So we're gonna load bank no matter what.
Even with 1 gen, yeah.
So I mean, might as well just run both and just...
You can run both, but then if you don't want to put a lot of hours on both of them, if you want to offset the hours, and...
My concern is chugging the generator. Say there's a power outage. Friday night, no one's here. Each generator, will the load immediately go to just one, or will it always split them?
It always splits.
It always splits. So then, basically, both of these are going to sit with nothing on them until someone gets here, because we probably won't have the load bank set.
Right, because this is a manual one. I can see it's a manual load bank. You have to come out here, put on the amount of loads you're going to want, and you have to know what your site load is going to be when you put it all on the generator, and then you can come out here and go, this is how much I want every single time that it comes on. That's where Gen Demand can help you if you're a low mandate Friday night, where it'll shut that generator down, and you don't have to worry about it when you're busy, when those one or two guys is busy running around the whole site, making sure everything's done. The switchgear is going to handle everything. It's automatic.
That's what I'll recommend, because if we don't put some load on it, it's just bad.
Now, I do know some people with, like another cat guy, he doesn't like Gen Demand that much, because he thinks that with a 2-gen system, if one fails, then the other one's, then you got
already operating.
Then you got the other one. You got to wait for it to come up. But you know what? If you don't have a lot of site load, and you don't want to, there's some sites that don't even have a load bank. And if you don't have a lot of site load and you don't have a load bank,
it'd be like driving in 4th gear up a hill, chugging it. It's just not good. It's not good for the site.
You don't want to wet stack it. That's
what I'll recommend to our boss for sure.
I think Gen Demand is a great feature. Some people don't like it, but to me, I think it's a great feature.
So there's a difference between power outage and a difference between testing.
Yes.
So the power outage, that might be running for 2 days straight. And if they're wet stacking for 2 days straight, it's bad.
I mean, I hate to throw another scenario out there, but look at the earthquake in '94. How much emergency power ran forever. I'm sure I was only big at that time. I know I'm probably showing everybody's age here. I apologize if I'm making you all feel old, but...
Thanks, man.
96 hours under full load.
So right now we said both come off and went to idle.
Both come. So in an outage situation, both gens come up. Both gens come up. The first one to rated speed and voltage closest to the bus.
Okay.
The second one will parallel to it. So then they both are parallel. They're both running for a set duration, which, let's go ahead and look right now. Load sensing, load stabilization delay is 1 minute. Remove delay 1 minute, so 2 minutes. So you have 2 minutes of load sensing that it has before it finally says, I need to shut a gen down.
Okay.
So both gens come up, it goes to the bus, runs for 2 minutes, and then it says, okay, I need 1 gen to shut down. Shuts one of them down. And your priority, right now it says minimum number of gens on line 1. So let's go to Gen Demand.
Can you change that to 5 minutes right now?
I can't.
Okay.
Your demand part.
What I'm worried about right now is the factory settings with those transfer switches. It could be 4 or 5 minutes before it rolls. Especially if we're doing a monthly test or something like that.
Right.
So if you could go in for 5 minutes, or even 10.
Okay.
Got a little safer than sorry, right?
But right now, if you look right here, the Gen Demand sensing is off.
Okay.
So it's not even going to run right now.
All right.
It's not even going to use it until you need it. So here, if you want to see, this shows a good graph of when it takes a gen off and when it adds one. All right. So right now, if you only had 1 gen on the bus, right, 250 kW. If you were below 250 kW, it's going to drop a gen off the bus. Okay. If you exceed 500 kW, it's going to bring one back on. And that's how you have it in here. One's labeled in green, so in green it's going to drop, in red it's going to add. In between there, if you run in between 250 and 500, you're fine. It's just going to keep running on that one generator. As soon as you, and then even if you're still below 250 at one generator, I mean, you only have one generator, so it's going to continue to keep running.
When we did that main shut off, I think 2 weeks ago, we actually shut off the main. How come both ran? I know we weren't.
It's turned off right now.
Oh, okay.
He's going to ask powers that be and everything if they want to use that feature.
They might decide I'd rather have that other generator, because what if you're in the middle of a surgery? You don't want another 10-second blip, right? So let them decide.
Then again, I mean, doesn't everything here, they all have battery backup, right?
To some extent.
To some extent? Okay.
Yeah. We don't have a whole lot of UPS here. Not a whole lot.
I thought some of your equipment has
not like
battery
UCSF, where they do surgeries 24/7.
Oh, okay.
You know, so we basically have a little time set.
Okay.
Nowhere near as big as theirs. A little smaller organization.
Yeah, I kind of noticed that when I came up here. I'm like, how do they fit a hospital in that little area?
In that corner? Yeah, exactly.
But I guess they did. Okay, so now that we got the gen demand out of the way, I'll go ahead and explain another feature which you guys won't be using, but it's good to know that you have it, all right? Another one's called load shed, all right? Now, load shed is a feature if you start overloading the generators, all right? That's only gonna come into play when you have both generators on the bus, all right? So if you eventually start adding a bunch of stuff to the hospital and you are going to exceed 2 megs, all right, then you're going to have certain load shed conditions where at a certain percentage of rated KW on the bus, it's going to start dropping loads when you have 2 gens online. And that'll be like equipment or certain, you're never going to drop life safety. Life safety will always stay on there. Life safety critical loads normally in a hospital will always stay on there until the gen burns to the ground.
So you have 2 generators and you're running 80%, 20%. You drop a generator, it's going to drop off one of those blocks so you don't overload the one generator, right? Which we have a long way to go.
Gen demand and load shed kind of work hand in hand with each other. So if you have a scenario where you drop a gen off the line because your gen demand scenario, and then it starts realizing, okay, I need another gen, but I could load shed. The percentages are far enough apart from each other where you're going to add another gen before you load shed. Load shed will normally only take place and come into play when you have both gens online and you're exceeding your maximum KW that you have available.
And that's really nice if you're doing maintenance on one generator. If you're doing maintenance on one generator and you have a power outage, you know, you won't overload the on-one generator. There's a power outage.
Okay, so now we're going to go ahead and start with your overview screen. I'll kind of back out of the way so you can see it, and I'll just explain from a distance. Okay, so your overview screen is basically what it is. It's an overview. It gives you a quick little overview of what the system is. You have 2 generators. It's going to give you your voltage, your KW, amps, and your hertz for each generator. It's also going to tell you the status of the generator. That status will change from either available, not available, running, fault. So that'll change based on what the status of the engine is. Below that is your engine control switch. Now each generator will dial into each generator and you'll see a little bit more what's on the control of the generator. But that right there is just a basic engine control. Being everything in auto right now, you're letting the switchgear do everything for you. You could put it in off reset, which makes the generator not available and it will not start. You can put it in manual, that is manually starting it up yourself. And then cool down stop, that is if you put it in manual, you've ran it for so long with full load on it, and you take the load off, but you need to put it in cool down. So you put it in cool down stop, it'll go cool down for 5 minutes, and then it'll stop itself, and then you can put it back in off. Looking at the bus there, the busing, the green, I'm sure you guys understand this, but I'll go ahead and explain it anyway, but the green half moon shape, that is your generator breakers. When those close, those come in closer to the bus, and they are changed to red. And also your bus will light up in a light blue instead of a dark blue. That'll tell you the bus is hot. If you also look in the upper left-hand corner, you'll see it says system mode. All right, when you go into emergency condition, that will change from auto to emergency. So if you're ever in a condition where you don't understand why the engines are running and you're not in emergency condition, all right, and if you go look on that and see that's an emergency, that means that the switchgear is getting a run request from somewhere. Something is telling the switchgear to run the generators. Okay, so now we'll dial in. Both engines have this same screen. This is the engine control screen. From here you can have the sync scope, the breaker status. It also gives your voltage there for gen voltage and bus voltage. So when you have one gen already on the bus, the bottom bar is going to show you the actual bus voltage. Once this second, like say for instance gen 2 is already up and close to the bus, you'll see on gen 1's control screen, if gen 1 is not running, you'll see the bottom bar up to 480 volts saying that we have 480 volts on the bus. Once the generator gen 1 starts and gets rated speed and voltage, you'll actually start seeing that on the top bar. Now you'll see that also with the frequency on the bottom. It's the same thing. So you can see if the generator is matching, if it's not already close to the bus, you can see if it's matching the bus voltage, if you have to manually parallel the generators. Off to the right, you'll see the amps and the kW bar. Okay. Now, the breaker close button, that is only, you can only use that when the sync mode switch on the right-hand side is in manual. So that can be used when you have to manually parallel the generators. I don't know how some of you are comfortable with manually paralleling generators. The good thing is our sync scopes are actually pretty accurate. So they come around, and being at the 12 o'clock position, you can pretty well manually parallel generators from the switchgear here and be pretty comfortable with it. You also have your voltage adjust and frequency adjust. Now with this, I'll slide over here, I know you want to see this. You can either touch here on the bar to change it to where you want it. You can use the plus or minus. Now the plus or minus is you know, very little adjustment, so that'll take a while. If you sit there and keep going like that, that'll take a while to get back to 0. Or you can touch right here on the number and just type in that number. The max left or right is 3,000. So negative 3,000 to the left, positive 3,000 to the right. Those numbers don't correlate with any amount of bias or whatever, it's just the bar graph range. So normally you would only use that if you have to adjust the voltage and frequency to manually parallel the generators together. Once you close the breaker, the switchgear takes over and adjusts frequency and voltage on its own, and those adjustments will go away. All you'll see is it'll say voltage adjust and the number. You will not be able to adjust voltage and frequency once it closes to the bus. Any questions about the control screen?
When you say it's got a range from 0 to 3,000, is that voltage or is that just a measurement?
It's just that's just a measurement that the bar graph has. It's just a range. It's got the bar graph itself has a range of 6,000, so it'll have negative 3,000 one way, 3,000 the other way. So, like I said, it doesn't really correlate to how much a number it is. We can look to see how much voltage bias we're actually putting out on here.
So 480 is not going to be 480.
It's it won't 480. It'll be at 480 when you're at 0. So
okay.
when you're at a 0 point right there, it'll be 480. Same thing with the frequency. It'll be at 60. We normally run the generator. We put it up at like 60.05 or something like that. We put a little bit higher, so when your ATSs have to come and sync back when you get utility back, the ATSs can go back easier, because a lot of times they have some of these ATSs have phase sequencing or phase monitoring. So with the gen being a little bit faster, sometimes the ATS can transfer back quicker. So, and then when you adjust the bar or whatever, that number it won't say 480 anymore. So if you put it up higher, most of the times with these, I see that On the high side, when we adjust it, we can adjust it up to about 500 to 510 volts. And on the low side, about another 30 volts. So what's that, about 450? About 450 volts. And then with frequency, we normally are able to adjust it all the way up to about 64 hertz on the high side and about 56 hertz on the low side, if you go all the way.
Yeah, on those guys, we got to make sure the transfer switch, because we have the over voltage pickup, under voltage pickup, and we got to make sure they don't stop.
Now, a lot of times we only use those for us when we're testing the generators during startup, or if we want to test for alarms. If we're testing over voltage or under voltage, over frequency, under frequency, we use that to test for that alarm to make sure we're getting those alarms in. A lot of times when we're manually paralleling, we don't really even need to touch that. The switchgear does a pretty good job, and the generators normally run pretty close with each other. We don't ever really have to touch that. But if there is a scenario where somehow one generator is running slower than the other, you can use that to bring it up, close it in, and then the switchgear will take over and keep them both together. Any other questions about control screen? Okay. Now we'll go ahead. Now there's multiple ways to get to different screens. So from what I showed you there, you can also get to the control screen by pressing Control and hitting Gen 1 or 2. Now there's other control screens there. I'll get to those as we keep going. So next we're going to go to your metering screen. So you can touch here or you can go to meter, either way. And this is your Gen metering screen. On the upper left meter, that is your voltage. You can adjust that here and see the different phases. So that would be your phase A to B, B to C, and C to A. And then on the bus side, we only measure one. So you only see A to B. Because when we're doing referencing to close in or to parallel, we only reference one phase to reference in and then close in that way.
Just basically switching as you go.
Right.
So,
Yeah. The middle one is your frequency. The bottom one, so the two middle ones you can change. So on the select meter on the side, you can change this top one to be power factor, or you can change it to be frequency. The right selector switch, you can change it from VARs or KW. And then the far right one is your amps meter, and that you can see your different amps per phase that way. Any questions on the metering screen? You'll see the same thing if you hit meter and you go system metering. It's the same thing. Now that's the only difference is that's going to show you what's on the system.
Is this tied into our BMS? Can we view it?
No, but we have the same panel we have here is in the shop, right next to the BMS.
Yep.
So you don't have to neutral on that? Well, this right here is just for this right here, because you know what I mean?
For like phase to neutral?
Yeah.
You can just do the math and figure that out.
I know it's
That's all right. No, we don't monitor phase. I mean, there are other parts
the
of
only
here that
reason why I ask
monitor.
is it's on our gen sheet. When we do our testing, we gotta write that down.
Oh, yeah. No, I mean, we don't. We normally just do phase to phase on all this stuff. There is some monitoring in here where we do phase to neutral, but it's mostly phase to phase.
That's cool. I mean, we can just get it off then.
Oh yeah, yeah. Oh yeah, you can get it off.
But you can, whatever you get there, it looks like you can pretty much get here.
Just about everything, yeah. If not more. They're actually all the gen alarms that he sends to us. We get pretty much every single gen alarm. And then we also have extra alarms here, over voltage, under voltage, all that kind of stuff. We get, now the way it works is when it comes to those electrical safety alarms, we want to trip here first. This is your first point of failure. You want here to trip first. If this fails and somehow the breakers are not tripping, then it goes next down the line. It just keeps working down. Because you want to try to avoid damaging equipment. So you want to do it here first, where the equipment is probably a little less expensive than damaging a generator, where the equipment's a lot more expensive. So, okay. Any questions on the metering screen? Okay. so we'll move on. Okay, so from the overview screen, that's pretty much all you're gonna really get. Sometimes you can get, yeah, this one here doesn't have it. Sometimes you can go, when you hit engine status, it'll take you to engine data screen. But we can do that through the main menu. Okay, so remember I told you there's multiple ways to get to different screens. So from the overview screen you saw at the bottom where you can hit control or meter and you can actually get to those two same screens. You can also go to main menu and you can get to the same screens from here as well. So your system metering, we were just looking at that. Gen metering there. When you hit gen metering, it'll come up with Gen 1 or Gen 2. Same thing with the gen control, it'll come up with Gen 1 or Gen 2. Now from here as well, we'll just move on down to your engine data. We'll pick Gen 1. This gives you a whole readout of your data coming from the generator. So your hours, number of starts, start attempts. So that's a good thing to have if you see start attempts where
I'll give you all that, huh?
it'll tell you, because the switchgear records how many times we've tried to start the generator, then the generator sends a signal back saying it is started. And we get that by a crank terminate signal. And crank terminate signal comes to us at 400 RPM. And then it gives our speed, and the speed here is 1800 RPMs. We run the generators. Yeah, it'll give you everything. So right now, engine state, it's telling us that the engine is stopped. The ECS position, that's the engine control switch out at the engine itself. So we have an engine control switch here. We also have one at the generator itself. So if you're trying to start the gen from here or from, say, down at your other screen and the generator's not starting, well, you can go to here and make sure that your engine control screen for the engine itself is in auto. Because if it's not in auto here, the switch, or here at the generator, the switchgear will not be able to start.
So we can be auto there, not here?
Correct. You can be auto there and you can have off here. Now, if either one has off,
Then it
the
won't.
switchgear won't start it.
So you don't have one that supersedes the other. It's just they both
You
gotta-
can, that one can supersede it. If you go out there, there's also there's on the engine, and he'll show it to you. You have a stop, auto, and run. So if you put that one in stop, it's never, switchgear can try all day long to start it, and the engine itself will not run because it's in stop. Put it in auto, it just sits there until the switchgear tells it to run. And then you also have run, where if you want to just manually run it from the generator. So say for instance, which you guys don't have this here, some sites have it where, I'm sure you guys remember the old phasing lights that come in and out. Sometimes sites want the little phasing lights on there, or they have manual sync scopes and all that kind of stuff on here. So if the switchgear fails, you can go out to the generator, start each generator up manually, turn the manual sync scope on and the meters and everything on, and you can manually parallel by using those and everything by doing it all that way. That's all manual. That's, I'm sure, all old school way to do it that way. So some sites still want that. Some sites still want everything to be automatic. So okay, now both data screens are the same. Both engine data screens are the same. Any questions on engine data screen? Okay. We'll go ahead and move on down. Distribution overview. This just gives you a quick little overview of what your distributions are at right now. So all your distributions are closed. And it gives you the rating of each distribution. So enunciator menu, okay, so each one, your system, this will give you system alarms. So such things as in system not in auto, or system, or load shed active, or load shed not active, or gen demand active. That'll be under your system enunciation screen. If you go to the same thing, enunciator menu, and hit your generators, this is where you'll have your generator enunciation. So like a low fuel alarm, or low coolant temp, or high coolant temp, or something like that. That'll be on the gen enunciation page. Moving on down. We also have, there's a password entry here, and yours, I believe, is 1234 if they kept it the same. Yep. So 1234 is your password to get into the screen. And the only thing that really unlocks, if you look on there, is user logic came up. And basically all this is if you needed to add, these are spare outputs that the 3.S panels have. So if you ever need to program a spare output or something like that, or normally you guys won't be doing this. Normally a Peterson would come out, or they'd call one of us cat switcher guys and we'd come out and we'd program it. But that is a function that is here. So it just kind of gives you different things, logic that you can program if you need it. But like I said, most of the time you guys won't need to do that. I wouldn't even worry about really messing with that. But that's the only screen that really unlocked in there to give you an extra screen. And it also gives you the opportunity to change any settings if you need to change settings and you're on your own. So you can actually go into, we'll say, generator settings, and it'll give you any one of these settings and you can actually change them now. Now, see how all the blocks right now on the settings page, all of them are white, right? Some of them are now, see how they have these little dots going through them? That means you can't change them until you put the password in. So once you put your password 1234, then you can make changes to the settings. Alright, moving on down, alarm summary. Now this is going to give you a whole summary of all the alarms that have been coming through. So if the alarms have already been cleared on the generators or the system, and someone already cleared them, and you want to know, okay, what happened? You know, why? You know, I want to see what alarms actually came through. You can go to the alarm summary page, and it'll tell you every single alarm that's been coming through.
There's a pre-alarm. How long does that keep it there?
Forever. I think I'd have to look in there. I don't remember the amount of days. We can actually go all the way to the bottom and probably find out. So the last day that was on here was February 16th. So that's a while. 6 months? 6, 7 months? Somewhere around there? 8 months? 8 months.
Well, we're 10-4, 10-5 right now.
Yeah, about 8 months, yeah. So I don't know if it holds all of them. Some screens.
That's pretty good to know, though. Actually, this screen right here.
Yes, it's very helpful for you guys, because then you can go in here. If you have an issue with the system and it's not operating correctly, and you call the help desk, they're going to want to know. All right, I need a list. Either take a picture of it or something. We need to see what last set of alarms you had, and that way they can help you troubleshoot over the phone or give you different ideas of how to fix it. Moving on down, your load shed settings. You guys are going to be using load shed here, but this is your settings page for it. If you ever do need to change it, it's right there. Remember, you do have to put in your password in order to make setting changes. And then here's your Gen Demand settings page. Now we will change that today. You said what, 5-10 minutes? So let me go ahead and I'll give you an example of how to do this. So you put your password in, 1, 2, 3, 4. Gen Demand settings. You would go here, and you would just type in your number. So we'll go, what, 10? 10. 10. 1. 0. Enter. And it changes your setting.
So we're still on Gen Demand, yes or no?
No,
We're gonna leave it off for now.
it's off right now, but at least
set for 10.
it's set for 10. So if you
Once
do
you go
decide to
on.
have it, you just go hit the switch on. So now to get to that, I'll just keep moving down this real quick. So optional features, this is just extra stuff that you get to have on here. Again, another setting thing on page you won't need, really. Okay, so now to get to your Gen Demand control screen. So when you guys decide to do it and you want to turn it on, go back to your overview, hit control, and you have extra control screens right there. You have load shed and Gen Demand. So you hit Gen Demand and it takes you right there. Your Gen Demand control screen. Now if you look, there's another button right there that says demand priority. That's setting the priority of each generator of which one you want to actually stay online. So hit priority. Right now Gen 1 is your priority 1. So Gen 1 would be the one that stays online first. So say for instance Gen 1 starts accumulating more hours than Gen 2 and you want to switch it, so then you kind of have the same amount of hours. And you would just go in here and you would come on. It's probably not doing it because I haven't entered the password. Yeah, it won't do it. You have to enter the password.
It'll automatically switch Gen 2.
It'll also, if you look right there, it says actual. That'll actually, it'll change. It'll switch. Let's see if maybe this will do it. I have a feeling it's because I have to enter the password.
There you go.
There it goes.
So maybe that's a safety feature where you can
Have both of them at 2.
have some guy fiddling with it.
Fiddling with it, and he leaves them both at 2 and tries to hit save, and it won't. You got to have at least one as be a 1.
Okay.
Other systems I've seen, you can just change 1 to say a 2, and it'll automatically switch them for you. You know, you won't have to put 2 and 2 and 1 or whatever. So it's just different systems have different settings on it. So I'm gonna go ahead and change Gen 1 back to being priority 1.
Okay.
So then you can have it, that one as your priority 1. All right. And part of this screen, you'll also see your load stabilization. There's a timer there. So that timer will count down. That's that timer I'll tell you where it said it needs to sense the load that's on the bus and how much is available and all that. That's that timer, and it'll count down. You can watch it and see it. And then up on the top there, you'll see the bus bar graph. That'll show you how much kW you're actually using on the bus. I don't think you'll ever need to use this screen, but this gives you control of your distribution breakers. Right now, they're in auto. Right now, the auto setting for them is to stay closed. There's no reason for them to ever be open. The only ones you need to have open or closed is the gen breakers. Let the gen breakers be automatic to do what they need to do.
So whatever you do in here, we can technically do at the shop?
Yes.
We don't physically have to be here?
No.
We can, okay.
You can do everything from the shop there, down where you have this other screen. Now you got to remember though, what you change here changes down there. What you change down there changes up here. They mirror each other.
Now I do notice, like when we got that pre-alarm, we reset it here. Cleared it, acknowledged it didn't exist, but our other 2 annunciator panels, not the full-size panel, the little
LEDs,
just annunciators, weren't clear. We had to actually go to those.
Correct. That is independent of the switchgear.
Okay.
You have to, so let's go ahead and go over alarms now. All right, so if you have a pre-alarm, all right, a pre-alarm, the way pre-alarms work is as long as the condition exists, it will continue to keep enunciating. As soon as the condition is gone, the enunciation will go away. Now, I believe it's the same way on the generators too, right?
Well, unless you, on the generator, it'll continue to blink. Once you acknowledge it and make the blink light solid, then it'll go away.
Then it'll go away.
If you don't acknowledge it, the light continues to blink. The condition will go away, and you'll come up and it'll be a blinking light, and you don't have any idea what
Right.
it is. If
Okay.
it's not an alarm.
But with the switchgear, if the condition is gone, switchgear doesn't see it anymore. You only see it at the generator.
But you'll see, we had this enunciator right here that was
Blinking
solid red.
Right.
And we had to acknowledge it, and once we acknowledged it, then it went away.
Okay. So you acknowledge it, and then you can hit. Yeah, actually, a lot of times, no, with the shutdowns, you have to hit reset. So if you acknowledge it, then it goes away. Once you acknowledge it, it goes away. You're done. Good. Pre-alarms are done. With a shutdown, you don't have to. With a pre-alarm, you don't have to go to off reset on here to acknowledge it and reset it. Pre-alarm, you acknowledge it, goes away, you're done. You're good. You can leave it in auto. If you have a shutdown alarm, this is where it comes down to a little bit more work on you guys. You have to actually come out to the generator. You have to see what your shutdown alarm is. You have to acknowledge a shutdown alarm there. He'll explain the whole thing of how to go through, how to acknowledge your shutdown alarms with the generators. Once you clear the condition with the generator, you have to come to the switchgear. You have to put it in off reset here. Then you have to go to your annunciator menu. The shutdown alarm will pop up there. You have to acknowledge and reset it here, but you have to reset it at the gen first. Because if you don't reset it at the gen first, it's going to keep thinking that shutdown alarm, the switchgear is going to keep thinking the shutdown alarm is there. So you have to get rid of the condition first before you can reset it at the switchgear. So this is, it's kind of like a fail-safe thing. It makes sure that the user is coming out and doing due diligence and looking at the shutdown alarm and making sure everything is kosher. So that's good. I'm glad we went over alarms. We needed to go. That was another thing we needed to go over. So right now, if you looked on here, we did not have that pre-alarm because I take it you already went over there and.
Well, I looked at them.
You looked at it.
It did have one. The only recent one I saw was a non-auto, actually.
Oh, really?
10-3.
Yeah. We came up. Yeah, we were.
Did somebody turn it off or something?
On Friday, we got a pre-alarm at like 2 p.m. After we ran the switches, rolled the switches, ran it. An hour later, pre-alarm came in. We went through, acknowledged it. Like you said, we were kind of running blind.
It didn't say what it
Just
was?
said pre-alarm.
You didn't have any flashing lights or anything, or blinking lights, or?
Over here, I'll show you which one was blinking.
Okay, all right.
But yeah, on the nuts here. So we came up and then cleared it here. We had to go downstairs, clear it to 2 other locations. Everything cleared here. And then it came back Monday morning?
Monday morning.
Monday morning. It came back
When I came on
early in the
shift.
morning.
Yeah, 3, that's good. Because if we only show first and last, we don't show the progression like he does. We don't show the progression, we just show first and last. So, and I did see that one said on 10-3. It had a non-auto alarm.
Yeah, because we took it out of auto. We couldn't get it to clear, even though it wasn't an alarm anymore. So the display said take it out of auto to reset alarm and then put it back in the auto.
Okay, well that's the only alarm when I saw it was 10-3, and that was when you guys took it out of auto. So I don't know what, right now I don't know what your alarm was. Because that's the only one that shows over there was 10-3. That said everything else was in April. Everything else, all the dates were April. That was the only one that had one for current, and that would have been you guys when you turned it off. So right now, what your pre-alarm was, I don't know. I'll show you how to go through stuff and look at stuff, maybe we can figure it out if it's in again.
All right, so now let's go over some components of the gear. So we'll start on the outside. We really don't have to go over anything on this side. This is all, pretty much these are all your distribution breakers. Pretty self-explanatory. Here you have your gen breakers, gen 2, gen 1. On the front here you have your, we like to joke and call it the chicken switch, but it's the circuit breaker control switch. Below that is the emergency stop. Now you have 2 emergency stops. You have one here and you also have one at the generator. All right. That's another shutdown fault, and there's a whole thing. He can explain it to you how to do your, how to do the generator shutdown reset for emergency stop. For here, when you do an emergency stop here, it sends a signal out there to do the same thing. If I remember correctly, how some systems are different, but this.
Stop requested by switchgear.
Yep. So then you'll have to go out there, reset it out there, and come back and reset it here. If you just stop it out there, you just go out there and reset it, come back here, acknowledge, reset the alarm here, and you're good. Not a problem. Now let's go inside the gear. All right, so inside the gear, you'll see the 2 big gray boxes in the back. Those are your main controls. That's your main PLC right there. That's your main control processors. Lots of wire and stuff in there. All right. That blue box right there, that is your fiber to Ethernet converter. That is the signal that's sending it down to your remote panel, the remote one of these. And being that how far the distance is, that's why we got to convert it to fiber, send it all the way down, and then we take that fiber signal, reconvert it back to Ethernet, and plug it into the we'll go pin. The other two off-white color boxes on the left, those are your 25 sync devices. That's what we use to sync the generators to each other, make sure that they're in phase and voltage and all that before we actually close in the breaker. Once we're in phase and voltage match and everything to parallel, contact inside those closes, giving the switchgear signal saying we're good to close the breaker. Go ahead and close it. All along the left-hand side, you'll see these black little covers or whatever. Those are your fuses. A whole bunch of different fuses in there. So if there's ever a certain part in the system that's not working and you call the help desk, they may say, okay, go look at fuse number, whatever. Now they're labeled on the side. Once you put your head in there, you can see there's labels all over these things in here. So you'll be able to see, you can find which fuse and they'll say, hey, check this fuse, pull it out, test it, and so on and so on. Up at the top, you should never have to really touch this, but it's there. It's your frequency adjust and your voltage adjust. If you change that right there, that actually changes the frequency and voltage when it runs. So if you were to start up the generator both out there or here, it's going to go exactly what is off that. That's your speed potentiometer and your voltage selector switch. So unlike here at the touchscreen, where as soon as the breaker closes, the switchgear takes over and adjusts voltage and frequency, you change it right there, that's going to change it completely. So that's why I tell you guys should not have to, if you have to manually parallel, you should not have to mess with that at all. You should just have to use the touchscreen. Over to the right hand side, this is another little feature that's real nice to have. It's called Instant Auto. We put this in there in case you're unsure if your system is not an auto, so we can do something like this. Alright, and then we can go right here and watch Gen 2. Cool. Did it go back to auto?
Yep.
Okay. So that puts everything back in auto. So that's a nice thing. Say for instance your touchscreen fails. Touchscreen, if the touchscreen fails, it's not, you know, the world's gonna end. That is a kind of a visual feature that's nice to have. The switchgear will still operate if your touchscreen fails. So if your touchscreen fails and you're unsure if your system is an automatic, you can come up here, hit auto, and your switchgear will still operate the way it needs to in an outage. Everything else in here, you got your ice cube relays right there. Pretty all basic features of switchgear. Any questions about components? Okay. What kind of freedom do you have here to start these today, or are you not? What kind of freedoms do you have to be able to start the gens today?
Today is an excellent day.
Okay. Awesome. All right, so now what we're going to do is I'm going to show you, we're doing a no-load test, how the generators will start and close to the bus. I'm sure I don't know if you guys have really seen the switchgear operate yet. Has anybody seen it really operate?
I don't think you've been standing here watching it operate.
Okay, so here's another thing you can have. You go to Control, System, we have a generator no-load test button. All that's going to do is start the generators and close them to the bus. It's not going to put any load on them. It's not going to cause your ATSs to transfer. Nothing. It's just going to close them to the bus and they're going to sit there.
You can do that on a run too over there, right?
Yes, from the same. You can do it at the other screen as well.
I love working on this generator.
You're talking about the generator, or
No, yeah, on the generator we can put it on run too if you want it.
that wouldn't affect this?
That
though.
would not affect this. You just run the generator there and it won't actually close the breaker.
Okay.
You need to actually tell the switchgear, I want to go ahead and run it and I want to close the breaker. So by doing that there, it's going to start them both and it's going to close them both to the bus. So, you good with me starting them?
Yeah.
Okay. We're going to go ahead and do once, and then once I do it once, I'll hit it back off. You'll see the breakers will open. It'll go into a 5-minute cooldown, which I'm going to go ahead and bypass the cooldown because we're not going to be, we didn't really put any load on it. So And then at that point, we'll go ahead and I'll take any more questions, or we'll start going through and let you guys play with the touch screen. You can go through. I'll stand here and watch over, so if you're about to do something, I'll be like, whoa, hey, whoa. You know what I mean? So, but give you guys a chance to maneuver around the touch screen so you get familiarity with it. So, all right, here we go. Both gen breakers have closed, and you can see now they're parallel with each other. The speed of your bus has changed. It's now light blue, saying your bus is hot. Also, your breakers, it shows your breakers are closed. Now, this is in an emergency condition. The exact same thing is going to happen. All right. If you decide to use Gen Demand, after the 10 minutes, Gen 2 will shut down, and only Gen 1 will run. All right. Once your emergency condition goes away, which I'm going to take the run request away right now. It will go away. Your breakers will open, like so, and you'll go, there's a 2-minute cooldown here. So normally it's a 5-minute cooldown. Somebody must have said that they wanted 2 minutes here, so I'll go ahead. Since it's only 2 minutes, I'll let it run so you can see that it'll actually shut the gens down on its own. So while we're waiting, we'll go ahead and go. You see we don't have any voltage on the bus right now. We'll go over here, that'll show you the actual gen voltage. It's A to B, B to C, C to A. The system, you're not going to see anything because we don't have any generators close to the bus right now. Once one generator closes to the bus, those will actually read. Somebody put your cooldown. Normally this means that somebody had requested it, but your cooldown is at 2 minutes. Okay. Do you want 5 or do you want 2?
Is there a way to tell it if you're manually shutting it down, it's 2 minutes?
If you manually shut it down, it shuts down.
Right.
If you do an automatic procedure, it goes through the cooldown process. I let it go through the 2 minutes because it was only 2 minutes, so.
That's not, yeah.
But if you want 2 or do you want 5? I can show
Test I want 5.
the load is really low.
Yeah, it's like I said, it's nothing.
Okay.
Until we start loading.
Well, I will show you.
You have to control that, so you can turn the load off, let it run for a couple minutes, and then shut it off, and then we're going to a 2-minute cooldown. You only need a high cooldown is when the hospital load is going heavy.
Okay, yeah.
But I can show you where to change that setting too. If you ever need to change it in the future, you should be able to go right here, generator settings.
Middle of the night or emergency.
Work with me here, I gotta remember where it is.
It transfers with the generator.
Yeah, they do.
So then you're adding this to that.
Cooldown timer, right there. So it was under, go menu, gen settings, pick a generator. Did you want to see where to change the cooldown? So you go to main menu, generator settings, pick a gen, ratings, cooldown timer. But obviously you got to put your password in first, and then you can go in there and change. If you ever need to change the cooldown timer, if you start having more load and you need to put it up to 5 minutes, that's where you can go to change it.
Okay. Well, today I'd also like to run the load bank on them, show the guys how to operate some. We can run them as much as we need to.
Okay. The best way to probably do that is I'd have to look. Load bank breaker's closed. Okay, good. So we can just automatically go ahead and start putting it on. So let's go ahead and before we start doing that, if you guys want to go ahead and start maneuvering around the screens real quick, go ahead and go through the things we already went through, kind of get a familiarity with it, and then we'll do a no-load test again, and then we'll actually apply some load on there. And while you guys are doing that, that gives me a little bit to kind of look over this load bank and see what's up with that.
Unscrew it, and then you just pump it until it gets hard again, and then screw it back in. You got 2 oil filters. Then you have a primary fuel filter down here, a water separator. You can look in the bottom, and if you start to get water in the fuel, for some reason you'll see a line in there.
Is your feed, oil feed?
Yeah, that's your oil fill.
Right there.
Yeah, the dipstick's right there. Some of the newer ones. Some of the newer ones, they changed them. You used to be able to check it.
Crystal clear this morning.
There's no oil, so you can check it. So it has 2 sides of the stick. Just make sure you look at the right side. One says engine stopped, and the other says low idle, but you can check it at rated speed. So that way, at least when it's running, if you're in a prolonged outage, you can come up because it is going to use oil at no load. If your load is really light, it is going to use oil. It's just a function of it because the rings aren't seated. So at least you can check it, and then you can add it while it's running to bring it back up to the full mark.
Yeah, what type of oil?
Caterpillar uses 10W40. 1040?
So you can't add while it's running?
Yes, you can.
Okay, got it.
The cap 40.
Got it.
Right here?
Yep.
Yes. Yeah. It's got an O-ring on it. Perfect.
No, that doesn't quite with everything. Like, a lot of things need to be done.
And for some reason, if your fuel transfer system isn't working, obviously you can manual fill there with, like if this one quits but that one's working, you can set up a pump and suck out of that one and put it into this one or whatever you want to do. That's what that is. And it's got a lid on it, obviously, and a seal, because if you overfill it with your primary system, it'll come out of there like a rainbow if it wasn't a sealed cap. This one turbocharger, you have a turbocharger on each side, obviously, and it will get hot to the touch. You can burn yourself, or you can feel it if it's hot. This is the actual exhaust side that actually drives the turbo. So it's hot here, but not as hot as this, and that's why they shield that. That's your engine ECM right there. Breather hose, black hose coming out of the back to get rid of the crankcase fumes. It goes up into the air plenum.
This is normal position, right?
Yes,
That's the okay position.
Yeah.
All the way up.
It'll suck down this way here, and when it goes red, obviously you need to fix it. So, and to reset it, you just push on the end button, and it'll click it and send it back.
What does that do?
That's the air cleaner indicator. It tells you if the air cleaner's getting plugged.
So we press hard here to reset them.
To reset it, yes.
Okay. Because they're all tripped. Well, 3 of them were tripped.
Oh, were they?
Yeah.
Okay.
And I was excited to hear you were here today, so I could ask you about that.
That's all you got to do.
Because they should be clean.
Yes.
Can we just remove those, blow them out?
These you can. Same thing. You can blow them out to get rid of some of it, but in theory you're supposed to change them.
Okay.
So same thing in an emergency. You can blow it out for whatever reason it's plugged. You can blow it out, touch it, throw it back in again, and see if you can get some more, life out of it.
Is that the cooling side glass right there? Yep.
That's cooling side glass right
that's
there. And that's your low water level switch over there.
Gotcha.
So that's the electronic safety.
Yeah,
the visual.
I saw that this morning.
Make a note to add that to the. Make a note to add that to the.
Sight glass on those railroads.
Ball bearing?
What's
Put
that?
it on the
Turbo?
rail sheet.
The snails, are they ball bearing? What are they?
Are they what?
Ball bearing?
No.
No. Oh, those are nice.
Instead of
And then
VFD,
behind you is what we call the house services panel. You open that up, and that's where the breaker is. You can open that and look. That's where the breakers are for your jacket water heater and all the AC stuff. And they should right there, they're labeled. So AC lights, left receptacle, right receptacle, your jacket water heater. So that's where the breakers are. If you come up and for some reason the engine's cold and you're getting a low coolant temp alarm, obviously the first thing you want to do is make sure the breaker didn't trip.
Where are those water heaters at?
That's on the other side. And here's your high fuel alarm box. This is the Peterson stuff. I think you have more stuff that has to do with the people that put in your fuel transfer system. But that's off of our sensors in the tank here.
Now it should come in. I just said the same thing.
4 minutes left in the end. Fire alarm wiring is up here, and everything's pretty much labeled. And this is battery power over to the switchgear. If for some reason the switchgear goes dead, they don't have any battery power, then you got to look at this. This is the breaker that feeds the battery power over to the switchgear. And then your jacket water heaters and fuses for your regulator and for the generator. It has generator strip heaters on it to keep the moisture out of the generator so it doesn't go bad prematurely. These two connections are where I hook my computer to here. And then any other wiring, if somebody decides you want some more alarms and stuff. The problem is everything's pretty full now. So depending on what they want, there's still a lot of outputs on this. It's what they call the I/O module, but it only gives you certain things. So sometimes we have to go and manipulate and change a whole bunch of stuff to give you what you want. So, but that's my problem. You just tell me what you want, we figure out how to do it. You have a remote e-stop on the outside here. Same thing, if you push it, you get an e-stop. To release it, you have to twist it, follow the arrows. Twist it, let it pop out again. And then I'll show you how to reset it. Battery charger down here. And the key disconnect is there if you want. For some reason you want to work on the engine and you don't want any battery power, you turn that key off, click it hard to the left, and that'll kill the batteries. And then all DC
Then
power.
it won't start.
Right. For some reason you want to lock it out. You can turn it off over there, just push on that. There you go. Jacket water heater is right there. And it has a circulation pump on it. That's why they only put one anymore. The old
Under
ones,
here?
Yeah, the old ones were convection.
I feel it.
And the controller for the heater, there's a contactor and stuff is under that gray box.
Can we just feel the pipe, Dennis, that comes off that pump?
You know, I mean, you can feel the pump.
You can feel the pump is spinning, and you can feel that pipe right up there. And there is isolation valves on it. So if for some reason the heater starts leaking, or something, the hose breaks or something, all you do is turn the heater off at the breaker, and then you close those valves,
There's
put
one
water
here.
back in it,
Right,
and
there's
you can
one
get back on the road.
And we can run the generator.
What were you saying,
without
Dave?
that.
There's one
Yeah.
there?
There's one here, and there's probably one, because if you follow this,
Yeah, there's a valve on the other side.
there's one on the other side. So you
That,
close this
that
off.
turns off the hot water or
Right,
heater.
It blocks, it shuts off the pump, isolates the pump.
Shuts off the flow to the heater. The heater's mounted horizontally underneath that gray box.
Got it.
And all that is the pump that circulates the water.
Oh, yeah, you just touch the pipe.
So it sucks it out of one
Yeah, that's what I
side,
was thinking.
pushes it into the other side.
We can
Now
also pull that information off the display.
And there's your batteries, obviously. You're supposed to change them. Caterpillar says every 3 years you change belts, batteries, and hoses.
Those batteries.
Every 3 years. Every year you're supposed to change oil and filters. Air filters are every 3 years also. There's your alternator. and check your belt, same thing. So you can see there's the alternator. So you don't need the, in theory, you don't need the battery charger. Once the engine's up and running, it'll maintain voltage through that, just like on your car. Four belts on. Yeah, and then there's 4 belts on the fan itself. It's what they call air-to-air aftercooler. So it uses air, outside air to cool the combustion air, basically. So your one core, that's what the big black pipe there and black pipe here are air. Obviously the hose is the water. And the first radiator core is your aftercooler core. And in front of that is the radiator core. Water drain down there on the bottom. Change coolant.
Oh, just that valve right there?
Yep.
Oh,
The
that's
ball
pretty
valve
slick.
comes out to a hose to the outside. And the
That's for the coolant?
That's for the coolant.
And there's another one for the oil somewhere.
I'll move this side. And you always, if you want to disconnect your batteries, you got to remember to turn the power off to the battery charger. You don't ever want to disconnect the batteries with the charged battery charger turned on. So they
And
wire
where
it
do
to
you
the other
turn that
side of
off?
the key. So in theory, you can turn the key off and leave the battery charger on, and you won't do any damage because the DC is coming over straight to here. But when you change batteries, or if for some reason you want to double secure and you don't want any DC, and you're going to disconnect those, you need to find the breaker to turn off the battery charger.
Is that in that panel over there?
Since it's not listed, it's probably coming from the one that's labeled jacket water heater, because that'll kill power to this panel up here. That will then in turn power off to that.
So we can't isolate just turn the
You
charger
can
off.
with the breaker. There's probably a breaker in. There's one of those breakers in there is strictly for this.
So that's the breaker that we want to look at.
Yeah. It depends on your preference. Personally, I do 30% in California here. It doesn't freeze. So you don't, if you get too much, you can overcool and everything. So personally, I like 30%. I don't like 50-50. It's all personal preference thing. But you should have at least 30%. You need at least 30% to get enough conditioner in. They also want conditioner. And if you put 30% coolant in, you'll get your 3% conditioner.
As long as you don't go below 30, you're good.
Right. Okay. Now we'll go over to the control panel. To show you here how to get to. So if you hit escape, it brings you up to the main menu, and then you can hit number 1 for temperature and pressure. 2 is the set points. So right now your high alarm is set at 40, and your high temperature is set at 1250. So warning is at 20 inches of water column, you get a warning light, and at 24 inches you get an alarm.
That's all informative though. It will not do anything to the generator generator operation.
Right. I think we send an alarm out when it gets bad. I think we send an alarm to that.
Okay.
So if you hit one, it so temperature and pressure to monitor it, you would hit 1, and then you would see what the temperatures are.
What's that for?
That keep it open.
Yep, prop rod. It probably goes under his foot. There's probably a hole. It's not like
okay.
plastic cap, but I would think it looks like it would be under his foot.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's under his foot. You'll see a black ring.
Oh, okay. So I would probably get the book when it comes and read it, because it's all, like, I don't know a lot about it either, but, so filter regen control. So this is talking about
you can start to regen by pushing one, and I'm guessing you're going to have it up to that 75%. So, and it'll tell you in there. I honestly don't know, but that's something that obviously you should read and then get familiar with. Yeah. So you know what to do when. I don't mess with it. Because what I saw when it was running, the water column wasn't high.
Yeah.
So I'm thinking you might be overdue for your regen, but again, you're going to need heat to do that. So that's that. Sad to say, you're right in the sun. So normally your auto position's on and you have a green light above the auto. If you go to run, that light goes out. You'll get a not in auto light and the light will come on here to run it locally. And this light is any alarm function. This yellow light will blink. Shut down, this one blinks, this one's red. So if you ever come up to it and the lights are blinking, you have to acknowledge it first. So if you hit acknowledge here, it will most likely acknowledge over here if the global annunciation is turned on, which I can tell you right now. So we'll go to stop. Okay, so you get your not in auto. This is blinking here. Okay, so the global annunciation is turned on. That went solid, this went solid. So once they go solid, when the condition clears itself, they will automatically clear. The annunciators you have downstairs are a read-only device. So if you don't reset them, it doesn't matter to me. Down there will not send the alarm up here like between me and the switchgear. So they're strictly a read-only, but you cannot acknowledge those from up here. They're a different device. This is a CAN bus annunciator, here to here. Down there, it's RS-485. So you have to basically physically go downstairs and wherever you have, apparently you have those annunciators in 2 different places?
Yeah, those are in the security and in FCC.
Right. So you have to go to both of those places and acknowledge it, make it go solid. Once you make it go solid, then it'll go out on its own once you correct the condition.
And that also sends a signal to the control panel that we were being trained on today as well.
Okay.
Right?
Yes. So when you, and the biggest thing is when he was telling you about, if you have a shutdown where the red light is on, you need to, exactly right, you need to correct the condition, figure out what it is, go to stop, correct the condition, then you have to go to him, put him in off reset, clear it, come back, put it in auto here, and then go put it in auto over there. Otherwise, you get this, and it goes back and forth. Because if you don't clear it here first, and you try to put it in auto, we send a signal right back to him that says, I got a shutdown condition. You can't clear him until you clear this. So you go to off reset over him, you come over here, off reset, clear your condition, back to auto, and then you go back to him. Now you may have to, if he's generating it, you may have to do it twice. So you may have to go to off reset, clear, go to him, clear, then come back, put this in auto, then go put him in auto. Because what happens is, I'm sending him a signal that I was shut down. He is in turn sending it back to me again. So you have to make sure he's clear before you go to auto, because as soon as you go to auto, you still got one coming from him, because you haven't cleared it. So it's going to trip this again, and then you got to start the whole process over. And it's... Right.
That was one thing that we were looking at.
Yeah.
That was when we did the test.
Yeah.
And I noticed later on, everything was set to normal. We had green lights, but I noticed down on the other panel in the FCC room,
right,
it was flashing, showing that it was not set.
Yeah. Now that, we may have an ECM issue, I'm not sure yet. So I cleared all the alarms out, and I'll show you how to read them. But anytime it's flashing, if you don't acknowledge it, make it go solid, it won't clear its own. You got to make it go solid, then it'll clear its own. So it can be in there for a week, If you don't make it go solid, it'll flash forever. So anyway, so to look at problems. So now we have a not an auto light on. Okay, you would go to event logs. You go to event logs. The top number is the total problems you have. So right now you have 2 issues. Okay, so now you would, and they both happen to be right now in the gen set because it says 2. So whatever's highlighted. So you scroll down, and now you're going to look at the engine control if you hit OK. You go down again, external I/O. Battery charger fault is coming in to the external I/O. So you would have like a 1 there if you had a charger issue. But so the top line is the total of events. Then you just got to scroll up and down and find all total. So this has 2, so you hit OK. Okay, so the first one is generator not an auto warning. Present means it's there now. Inactive means it was there. Okay, so if you hit OK, you hit OK again on that one, then it gives you what they call the SPN number. And then if you hit down, now this is where you're getting it. So the last hours it came in was right now. So that's how you tell. We only do the first and the last. We don't like over there. He'll have a progression for you. You can see it came in yesterday, it came in today, it comes in tomorrow. You know, we don't do that. All we do is first and last. Okay. And then I can hook to my computer up, and I can tell you actually how many times it. Oh, there it is. So you scroll. So the last hours was here. You scroll down again, it gives you the first hours. So it tells you the first time it happened, the last time it happened. And then it will store these when the problem goes away. When you bring the screen up and hit OK, let's go back to auto. See, it changed to inactive. Okay, so now it changed to inactive. So the first one is generator control inactive. You scroll down, and that's all. That's all there is. That occurred once. So if there was more alarms stored in there, when you go down, it'll go from the last one under this that happened in successive order, in the order that they happened. So you can read,
There's another one present because you've got 2 of 2 there, right? So if you go up, when you hit 1 of 2, there you go.
Yeah, and that's present because they have this wired in, and your breaker is closed. So that's the event logs. And then to reset, you need to be in stop. Only for a shutdown, not for an alarm condition. Yellow light, all you have to do is acknowledge it, make it go solid, it'll clear itself. Red light is on, then you need to be in stop to clear it. It'll only clear in stop, and it'll tell you that. It'll say controller must be in stop to clear alarms. And then you hit OK. This is the generator hot button, if you will. You hit this one, and that's your first screen. It'll tell you your volts, average voltage line to line. It'll tell you your average amperage, your frequency, your power factor, and the kW and as a percentage of your total load. If you want to read more, all you do is scroll down. Scroll down, and it gives you more than any information anybody would want. It's the engine button. Same thing. Here's where you read your hours for your airboard crap, and it reads it in tenths. So right now you're at 38.9 hours. So engine oil pressure, jacket water temperature, battery voltage, RPM, and then what condition the controller's in. You're in stop. Same thing. If you scroll down. Now this one here, what this is for is CAT wants you to change oil once a year. So, or 500 hours, whichever comes first. So basically in 126 days, that was a year ago we put this engine in service. So in theory in 126 days, you need to have called to have somebody change your oil, whether it be us or somebody else or whatever. In theory, oil is supposed to be changed in 126 days. I believe the lock is off and you can reset this. that's a 4-panel, I'm sorry. So that is the main menu. Reset counters. So if you want to reset that, then you would go to there under configure menu, reset counters, you hit OK, and then it gives you a couple of counters that you can service. So there it is, service maintenance interval. If you would hit OK, it would go ahead and roll that over to 500 hours, 365 days. This is the back button. So we were back to the engine. So scroll down, and it'll give you total starts. And what's nice is right here. So right here is, this is the total, right now, in its lifetime so far, through all the testing and everything, this thing has burned 887 gallons of fuel total. When it's running, it'll tell you exactly how much fuel it's using when you're online.
That's on the engine. You're scrolling through the engine.
Just this, the engine ECM. So this is your main menu. So view, you can view IO status, which is the analog inputs, the outputs, log, event logs, which is the same as this button here. Same thing. You're right back to the same button. This has an internal voltage regulator. You can view that if you so want. Target voltage, excitation, and so forth when it's running. So if you go over, somebody go over and push that e-stop on the other side. Actually, we push this one. So you've done a couple things now. Oh, there it is. I couldn't see it. Okay. So right there, so you got a red light on. Right. Okay. And obviously you got a red light over there. Right. And you shunt trip to breaker. So anytime you get a red, you got to be aware that it's going to shunt trip that breaker. So the first thing you got to do is you got to go to stop, which now is going to give you not an auto, and that's normal. You've got to reset this first. Once you reset it, then you can reset this, because if you don't reset that, now watch what's going to happen. So I read down, the alarm's still here, okay? It's still red, still red. See, it won't reset because you got to do this first. So you go to stop, reset right here. It says reset all events, okay. Reset all events, or hit cancel. So we're going to hit okay. So now it has removed. You heard it click, so it cleared the shunt trip coil. So we're in stop, and the lights are both out. So now you can reset your breaker. And you go back to auto. And move back to auto. And move back to a clear board again. Okay.
Can you show the shunt trip again? What position is on and off and trip?
Oh well, up is on. Up is on.
Right.
And trip is going to be in the middle.
Okay.
In the middle, and then off is obviously down.
Okay.
And you have to go down first
to
reset it before you can go up. You just can't.
So you have to reset that before you can even do that.
Yeah.
Right?
Anytime this is in the middle, it has to go down to reset, clear the fault, and then you can go back up again. And then, see, here he was talking. If you push the e-stop over there, it's going to come in right here. This red light will be on. This will shut down. This light won't come on. This light won't come on, but this one will. And it's an e-stop requested by this. That way you know. Right. Instead of running around looking at all the e-stops, you know which e-stop was pushed. Okay? Anything else? That's pretty clear. that's the biggest thing. It's just you got to run them with load.
I never even knew about that shunt trip
No,
right there.
no, it's this light right here.
Oh, it's those lights. Okay.
Those are lights. If you need, for some reason, to adjust voltage frequency, you can do it through the front panel.
I thought this was a hard panel. I never even knew that was there. I never even knew that.
It's just like flipped out. Like, whoa, there's something under there.
Yeah,
It's got a magnet on it.
Yeah, okay.
That's pretty slow. Yeah, make sure we keep that one in focus.
Yeah.
All right, pretty straightforward. So he's got it worked out now.
Oh, okay.
He's got it worked out. He said it was a SETI. So the wire is supposed to be there, but he said it was on the logic setting.
Oh,
So all I have to do is just press a button, and it should work.
So now it should work next time we can add and drop load.